Hello and welcome to the Radical Podcast, inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root. We explore the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
This season is all about divination, tarot, and the power held within our intuition. This is The Radical with Nicole and Christina, the two metaphysical girls in the material world.
Hello, welcome to the Radical Podcast. This is Christina.
And I'm Nicole.
Today we're talking about the tarot card Judgment. In Scorpio season, because the planet ruling this card is Pluto. Classically Mars, but that's why it falls into this season of Scorpio. All right, I've got a list to go through for you guys listeners of the qualities, properties, and attributes, and then we have the card comparison very soon after that. And I've got a message from the universe. I'm using my new Oracle deck called Witch, W-I-T-C-H, Woman in Total Control of Herself.
I love that.
Yes, these cards are amazing. They're beautiful, and it's just a really, I don't even have an adjective to describe this deck. Cool, good, awesome, auspicious, beautiful, witchy. The card name is Judgment, and sometimes it's called the Angel. I read an article about this card being associated with time, and it's been called time, but also in some traditions it's called an aeon, not eon, but an aeon. And aeon means an age, lifespan, a long amount of time, and also eternity. Which, when we look at this card and where it falls in our hero's journey, all of that makes sense. The card number is 20. XX in Roman numerals. The element is fire. And we talked about the planet being Pluto. That's the modern association with Scorpio, but the classic was Mars. And is this a yes or no? This is a yes. Yes, this is a yes. This card has some really interesting imagery and some really interesting history, and it evokes a lot of emotions. But once we break that down a little more in our card comparison, once we get to kind of like the core of this card, I see this card differently now that we've done the research in this, which is what I needed to do, because I kind of had this card stuck in a place in my mind that it needed to move out of that place. The house is the 8th house. The planet rules this card is Pluto. That's the 8th house. The house of transformation, the house of I desire, and the 8th house is ruled by the King of Cups because it is fixed water. Okay, I get to talk about crystals for a minute. My books had blue moonstone and angelite. And I have moonstone. I don't think I've seen blue moonstone, and I've never even heard of angelite. But I enjoyed reading about those two crystals. Scorpio season, and this card, to me, is all about opals. Do you have any opals?
Don't think so.
Have you had a draw to opals? I feel like when I was a young person, I went through an opal stage. I just have I have my over-the-ear earphones on, so you can't see my little opal earrings that I'm wearing right now. But I change all my earrings at the change of the season. So I have my Scorpio jewelry on, which is opals. But that's my opinion about the crystal for this season. The correspondences with the Judgment card is the Hebrew letter is Shin or Sin. The Hebrew letter as it's associated with tarot, the symbol is the tooth, and that's from ancient Hebrew. And it was the symbol actually at one point was the symbol of the two front teeth, and then adjectives associated with the teeth like sharp and press. For tarot, the meaning of Shin or Sin is renewal. The actual physical form of the shape of this letter has the connotation of whether it's pronounced with a sh or a s, depending on where a dot is placed on the left part of the symbol, or on the left part of the letter, or on the right part of the letter. But when you look at the physical form of the letter, some interpretations see the shape of this letter to resemble 3 flames. And then it represents fire and divine power, holiness and transformation. And that's the fire of transformation. And you could find a quick search. The Wikipedia article on this letter is quite fascinating. And you could see the whole history of this letter and letters that came from it and were influenced by it. And uh, really fascinating that people study letters as part of history. I love that.
This letter is one of the 3 mother letters. If you remember that breakdown from the Kabbalah episode, the Fool and the Hanged One are the other 2 fundamental letters.
Fool, Hanged One, and Judgment. That is like beginning, middle, and almost end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Tree of Life. This is the 21st pathway from Malkuth, which is the 10th sphere, meaning kingdom, to Hod, which is the 8th sphere, majesty. And on the Tree of Life, this is on the lower outer left pathway. Malkuth is the bottom circle, and the majesty is the first circle on the left-hand side. Okay, the chakra is the Alta Major once again. And we just talked about the Alta Major because I just listened to our last podcast and we were talking about this chakra. The Alta Major
It was the death episode,
yes,
right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. We are in that realm right now, listeners. We're in there. This is a higher level energy center located at the base of the skull, the occipital ridge. I just read your Substack too because that just came out. when we're recording this, that was just released, and I just read Nicole's Substack, and she was talking about the Alta Major, or clarifying the Alta Major. And it's this chakra is part of spiritual awakening and a higher consciousness. It's associated with spiritual communication, channeling divine energies, and processing past life information, which Nicole and I were talking about just before we hit record. That is the energy, or that is the chakra energy of this card, and I am absolutely vibing it. I'll talk about a few symbols. There's a lot more than these few I'm going to cover. The first symbol I'll talk about is the trumpet, because I don't know if there's any other cards that really feature a trumpet. And this is symbolizing a call to action. This is symbolizing a calling. The Rising Dead is a main feature of this card in a lot of decks, and that symbolizes rebirth, transformation, and waking up. I like the wings and the feathers. All of my cards have some form of wing or feather. Wings and feathers symbolize the link between the physical and the spiritual worlds. That totally makes sense. It could also symbolize freedom, wisdom, and strength, divine protection, and messages from deceased loved ones or higher powers, which falls right into the time of year we're in as well, when the veil is thin. And when are we talking about a thinner time than Judgment, when the actual transformation process is here? The theme of this card is waking up. Wake up. Are you going to heed the call of rebirth and transformation?
The numerology of 20 is associated with the energetic vibrations of pretty much all things death card, Scorpio, and 8th house, transformation, rebirth, patience, and humility. And the Judgment card is connected to the High Priestess. 20 reduces to the number 2, which gets us to the second card, or the 2 card in the Major Arcana, the High Priestess. And the XX ties this card to the 11 card, Justice. I don't have too much else to say about 20. Except, oh my gosh, it's 2:20 right now as I said that. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of fun. All right. So Christina mentioned some of this already, but it was sort of important for me to go through it again to really wrap my mind around this card. So the Judgment card corresponds to Pluto. We talk about Pluto next week. And this is Scorpio's ruler. Traditionally or classically, we have Mars as Scorpio's ruler. We'll talk about Mars during Aries season, but we'll talk about Pluto next week. And we mentioned this, I think, last week in our 5, 6, and 7 of Cups, how we get this like fiery element because of Mars. And my notes for the Judgment card say that, like, I have fire written, you know, how I've written on all my Rider-Waite-Smith cards. So I have fire written on here, but I looked back at our elemental correspondences chart from episode 55 when we did Aces and the Elementals. And Judgment, I think, is the only Major Arcana card where it can be of the water element or the fire element. So it's kind of both.
Nice.
And now it makes total sense. Why? Just like the Death card, we have the influence of both the elements, fire and water. And it makes sense to me if we think about the hero's journey for both Judgment and Death to be linked kind of together through Pluto. In cycles of rebirth and transformation, a metaphorical death is followed by renewal and awakening. I also learned, I wrote this down, you can spell judgment with or without that E. That always tripped me up, but both are correct. So
I think I
that's
spell
good
it
news for me.
half the time one way and half the time the other way. Like, I don't have a preference. I just, because when I saw that on your notes, I was like, really? Did not know that.
In my Rider-Waite-Smith deck, Judgment has the E, and all my other cards that use Judgment don't have the E. So that was an interesting note to make.
How about that?
In my Zodiac Tarot, we have, very similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, 4 naked beings who have emerged from their coffins. Their gaze and their hands are upward in celebration and in reverence to the angelic wings that are above. And we do have that trumpet symbol in this card. And the trumpet symbolizes rebirth, awakening, and triumph. That's actually my only card that has a trumpet. All the other ones do not have the trumpet.
And you know what's interesting about your cards? Only 2 of your cards have feathers and all the rest do not have feathers in them. And I was talking about how all of mine have feathers. See? Listeners, this is so fascinating, the imagery and the symbolism in these cards.
In my Medicine Woman Tarot, this card has been renamed Discernment. And we talked quite a bit about the concept of discernment last year during Capricorn season. There are different aspects of discernment, from personal judgment and wisdom to the deeper ability to see beyond surface appearances. Discernment is the ability to perceive, understand, and interpret something, whether that's people, situations, or ideas, with accuracy and clarity. And discernment also can be thought of as the ability to make sound judgments based on careful thought, especially in complex or difficult situations. And sometimes the Medicine Woman Tarot's guidebook is helpful, and sometimes it's still a little like leaves me with questions. And I found for this card it was helpful. From the guidebook, it says some situations that once satisfied you will no longer feel comfortable. You will have to make decisions based on your new priorities. And for me, it's really helpful, like, to think of this card as like having. Okay, I want to say it like this. To me, a spiritual awakening isn't like a one and done. It's not like I flipped the switch, I'm now spiritually awake. It's like this constant evolution. And I think it's like a constant hero's journey, and it's a constant cycle of going through various experiences and learning and growing. So when you're on a spiritual path and you start waking up, things that you used to tolerate maybe become intolerable. Things that you used to put up with, you now have a boundary up to protect yourself. So the card itself, we see the side profile of a person who appears contemplative, and literally pictured on her mind, there's a cabin with smoke coming out of the chimney. The smoke that is rising sort of turns into a path that leads to the top of her head. And at the end of that path, at the top of her head, there's a figure standing with arms extended upwards in reverence to a buffalo. And in a lot of native cultures, the buffalo is very significant, very meaningful. There's a lot of symbolism and spiritual meaning. And in particular, the Lakota religion has a lot of reverence for the white buffalo spirit woman. She's a central sacred figure, believed to be a divine messenger. She's a symbol of hope, unity, and a reminder of the sacred connection between humans, nature, and the spiritual world, as well as the cyclical nature of life. And it is said that White Buffalo Spirit Woman taught the people how to pray and gifted them with the 7 sacred rites, which emphasized living in harmony with the earth and all living things. So I appreciated that take and a more earth-based spirituality take on this card. We'll go more into it later, but I don't have this deep connection to the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery because to me it's so overly Christian that I don't really relate to the imagery. So this card to me and its emphasis on the spiritual world, nature, Mother Earth, resonated much, much more. Moving on to the Antique Anatomy Tarot, there's a skeleton in a coffin.
This card made me laugh out loud because this skeleton is stepping out. It's like, and I'm here, and I'm singing. It's got its arms out, its legs out, its head is tilted back. I'm like, this skeleton is like moving out of that coffin with a purpose. He's got a song to sing.
And the skeleton is holding a banner with a Latin phrase. I will not attempt to say the Latin phrase, but I did put it into Google. And the translation is, because you do not know the day nor the hour. This is a saying that is said to convey a sense of vigilance and being prepared. I think sort of spiritually, like we don't know when we're going to die. We don't know when um, misfortune may strike or when fortune may strike. So it's sort of being um, spiritually fit is how I took that banner and that message. You hear that concept a lot in 12-step groups, this idea of being spiritually fit, being vigilant and prepared in the face of unknowability. The skeleton in this card is also surrounded by purple flowers, and purple symbolizes a higher power. And last but not least, Mystic Mondays. On this card, there's a path that appears before us, and there's two sort of like thresholds or like doorways, one near, one far. And what's interesting is the thresholds look very similar to the large reflective kind of mirror like square that was in the Hermit card back when we talked about the Hermit card from this deck. So to me, carrying that imagery forward into the Judgment card evokes the same sense of self-reflection and introspection that we pass through on our own hero's journey, our own spiritual growth journey. Also, next to the, or on either side of the threshold that's like further away in the distance, there's two mountains, one on either side of the threshold, and then two moons also on either side of the threshold. And mountains can symbolize the pinnacle, a triumph, or achievement, kind of similar to the symbolism and the meaning of the trumpet in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And then the moons can symbolize what is hidden, cycles, and intuition. So you get kind of that spiritual high priestess type vibe with that symbolism. And I just I jotted this down as we were talking in the beginning, but the color scheme of the Mystic Mondays card, there's a lot of kind of like purples and reds. So the same color scheme as the angel's wings in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck.
Oh, when I looked at that card for Judgment, I thought of Star Wars when Luke is looking at the double sunset,
Yes.
and I can't not see that now when I look at that card. So I see those as suns, not moons, which is interesting because my imagery is coming from a different place. But because whether it's setting moons or setting suns, it still could mean a transition point. It still could symbolize the rising and the setting of those celestial bodies. But yeah, I was like, that's just like Luke looking at the double sunset. Those reflective surfaces are really fascinating to me. They're like portals or gateways too.
Mm-hmm. And when I put my cards in the Substack for this episode, I'm going to include a picture of the Hermit card because they are strikingly similar. Like I look at that and I'm like, that is the portal from the Hermit card.
But the Hermit is self-reflection. So in this Judgment card, self-reflection as well. So that is, those cards are fantastic. Very, very fun to look at all these different cards. Okay, so from my card comparison, starting with the Spirit Song Tarot is card 20, Awakening. The author has chosen the peacock, and the keywords are renewal and enlightenment. Generally, when I think about peacocks, I have a different association with them. But I looked it up. I did a search, and generally peacocks will symbolize beauty, grace, purity, but then like divine favor, royalty, and connection to the gods. So I see them as more of like that, right? And not necessarily how is this tied to this concept of judgment. The vibrant plumage of the peacock, I mean, it could represent cosmic order, interconnectedness of life, and there's those eyes on the peacock feathers,
Mm.
and that can be like wisdom, protection, and heightened awareness. So I'm like, okay, yeah, the peacock. It started to like open up, my thoughts about the peacock as and what it means in the spiritual. Oh, Nicole is holding up her Judgment card from the Zodiac, and what's on the wings there?
They look like eyes. And the
Yeah.
wings are feathered, and yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
it very interesting connection
Mm-hmm.
between one of my decks and your deck.
The just to go back to that card, your Judgment card and the Zodiac deck, the two arms, I find that a little disconcerting. The disembodied arms. Like there's like no other body part, right? Just arms and the horn. Like there's not like a head or a face or anything, right? The imagery is beautiful, but I'm just like, why am I stuck on that? Like that's something I need to unpack a little bit or dig into a little bit. But also, peacocks, they can represent renewal, resurrection, and spiritual awakening because they shed and regrow their feathers every year, which I did not know. I figured they would just lose a little bit and then grow, like molting, like like my little parakeet does at home. But I could see that now. So renewal and resurrection, because the feathers are all gone and then the feathers come back.
When we lived in the same town, wasn't there a peacock on the loose around town?
There were different sorts of nesting birds. They weren't peacocks. There were, I can't remember the name of them, but there were birds walking around that weren't chickens, but they were like backyard nesting birds that used to walk around, particularly where we were working. They were on that little stretch of
Mm-hmm.
road. The Wild Unknown Tarot has Roman numeral XX, judgment, and the key term is forgiveness. This is a black and white card, no color, but I like the use of the image of the bottom being almost solid black. And then as you follow the card up, it transitions into a mass of black birds flying upward. And then upward, 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 and it's radiating up. And the very top part of the card is completely bright white with a large white bird with its wings extended. This card to me just draws your eyes upward. It radiates an upwards energy. It radiates like almost like a loosening, like like the black bottom where the birds are all tight and then they just kind of like get released. And then they can
It's
flap
like
their wings and
diffuse.
fly. Yes, yeah. That's the energy I get of this card. I feel a lot of energy when I look at this card. And it radiates like an upwards energy. For my Secrets of the Witch's Garden, it's XX, Roman numeral 20, judgment, and the keyword is revolution. In this card, a winged ethereal form is blowing a golden trumpet. In this illustration, there's a red flower on the trumpet. There's a red, like laurel leaf in the ethereal creature's hair, and there's the wings are red. That makes me feel that fire element in that ethereal figure. And then I love there's a group of beings. There's a group of people and animals. It's multi-generational, multi-species, because there's a dog. And if that's a ferret, it's like a hardy ferret. I was like, is that an otter? Ferrets are usually really skinny. Maybe it's a weasel or something like that. But then I thought maybe it's an otter. But anyway, multi-species group of individuals waving up and like waving and embracing each other and being together in this beautiful garden. There's a house off in the distance. The sky is really soft and flowy. The ethereal figure is it just has a flow to it. It has a very welcoming vibe to this card. I don't get a lot of the resistance I get with the Raider White Smith card. With this card, I'm like, I could be in that group there. I could be standing there next to the dog or the otter. The very
Yeah, somehow, even though there's like an angelic figure, it doesn't feel religious. It definitely
no.
doesn't have the same tone, I guess.
Yes, the tone is different. I would say I'm saying figure. In my eyes, this figure could be distinctly masculine or feminine, but it could lean more on the yin side, the feminine side, with the robes and the feathers being much more soft, much more welcoming.
And I feel like, too, because there's all this green grass, like they're standing,
Mm-hmm.
that group of beings, it's like they're standing in a meadow instead of coffins.
Yeah,
I'm getting the earth based spirituality vibe.
yeah. And they're still heeding the call of the trumpet. This is just another way to visually represent that, as opposed to coming out of coffins. They are still fully involved in their spiritual awakening, but without the very religious iconography of coffins. And anyway, and then for the sacred she, this is card Roman numeral XX20, and the name of the card is Liberation. There's a heart. It's got a red center, and it's on the top middle part of this card, and it has outstretched white wings. The top part of the card is midnight blue, starry sky. Okay, then we travel to the bottom of the card. Along the bottom edge of the card is like a red. It's not fire, but it's like there's fire right outside of the picture of this card. Because like there's like this red, and then it's smoke, and it's gray and thick. And I thought for a moment it might be clouds, and you might see clouds. I see smoke. And then as the clouds go upwards, it doesn't touch the heart or the wings. There's an area of pure black space through the middle of the card, like a transition point. You got to take that leap of faith between the clouds, the heart, and the sky. I like that card a lot. It captured my imagination. As you could tell, I'm kind of like, oh, and then there's the smoke, and then the black in between space. And listeners, you might look at this card and see something completely different. Nicole, you might be seeing something different right now. It's so fascinating that when cards can leave us to fill in more of the story based on what we see and what we know.
It's making me think of how you said water and fire make steam. And to me, this looks like smoke, like the red glow suggests fire. Therefore, the gray clouds suggest smoke. But also, it
Mm-hmm.
could possibly be steam because of hot water. Boiling water
Yeah.
does make steam. And
And that
steam rises up.
love that midnight blue twinkly sky at the top. I want to just like get lost in that space there. Yeah, this card is really really it makes you feel things. I feel things. You know how like we were talking about cards making us feel things? Some I don't feel anything when I look at it, which is fine. And then some cards I'm like I can't stop looking at it and thinking about all the elements of the cards. It's just where we are on the day that we're looking at them.
Okay, so I have pulled together some meanings, and one word that I was very intentional about not using was the word resurrection. Okay, so the Judgment card can convey, like Christina mentioned, like the trumpet symbolizes responding to a call from a higher order. It could also be aligning with your divine purpose. I think that says the same thing. It also can mean there's no going back. This is the
I put a note. Oh, sorry. You just said that, I skipped all over my notes because I was too busy talking about the pictures on my cards. But in The Secrets of the Witch's Garden, the author wrote something that I thought really sums up this card: is there's no going back, and nothing will ever be the same, because you can't unknow what your hero's journey has taught you. You can choose to ignore it. You can choose to not heed the call, but you can't go back to not knowing.
Yes. And speaking of the hero's journey, this is the second to last card in the Major Arcana. So you have been through some stuff, and you definitely know things now. And I likened this to the butterfly, the metamorphosis, the chrysalis. There's a point where through the metamorphosis, the butterfly, like it's too late for the butterfly to be like, no, I want to go back to being a caterpillar. Biologically, the transformation has happened. Other interpretations, an internal and personal renaissance, the resulting gifts and healing from journeying into and through our depths, our underworld, our shadows, and then coming back again. It's the Phoenix rising archetype. And I think having the fire element as part of this card really holds that meaning, that archetype. And I've been thinking more about the 5, 6, and 7 of cups. And it's kind of I see that mini hero's journey in those cards now, kind of feeling the depths of despair, but coming back with a gift, with knowledge, with wisdom. What else? Preparing to carry forward into the future all the wisdom, lessons, experiences, and clarity that we've gained. When Luke, we both brought up Star Wars, when Luke goes back to Yoda before Yoda dies, he tells Luke to pass on what you have learned. And I kind of get some of that with this card, since we're at the end of the hero's journey. That's a characteristic of the hero's journey. We kind of come back and we become a teacher. And discernment. This is from my Mystic Mondays guidebook. She says, you'll make your decisions based on a perfect blend of intuition and intellect, enhanced by your library of lessons learned from past experiences.
Oh, that's a good sentence.
Right?
Oh, I like that a lot.
Perfect. So I wrote a culmination that is made up of our own inner knowing, a connection with both our intuition and a higher power, as well as our lived experiences. And if you take my sentence and the Mystic Monday sentence and kind of break it down, it's the combination of free will, fate, and Saturnian experience. That's like exactly what the Bazaar taught us. So it's this
1/3.
Yeah, this combining, this balancing, this harmony of those pieces. And last but not least, this card can convey like this moment of like we're at the end of our journey, we're about to like teach or start again, and we're doing like a self-appraisal. We're recalibrating, we're reflecting, we're kind of like integrating all that new information. For reversals, we could be disconnected from our intuition or source, our higher power, higher order. A reversal could be trying to alert us that we are in a state of being object referred instead of self referred. And we talked about this in, I think, the 7 spiritual laws of success. So when we are in object referral, we are externally focused, usually operating from like a fear-based place. We're needing and seeking approval from other people. We're trying to like control and micromanage our situations, very ego driven. And it's like the temporariness of our earth-based experience. Whereas when we are in self-referral, source is continuous, infinite. And when we're in that state of unity with source and we're self-referred, it's more gratitude instead of fear. It's being content with our path instead of trying to get that approval from other people. And then a reversal could also mean that we are feeling disillusioned, self-pity, resentment, or we're unable to quote unquote see from an intuitive or a higher perspective. My guided tarot book says this shows up as repeating patterns without learning the important lessons. And I think it's helpful to look at situations like that and ask, what is happening for me? What is the universe trying to teach me to kind of move out of that stuck repetition?
The question I have to write the reversal is, what helps me come alive?
I like that. That's a good
that's a good journal prompt too. Like, all of us should just write that at the top of a blank page and start writing. What helps me come alive?
so much better than saying like it's a good like with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, instead of being like, this is a resurrection, I like the reframe of what is making each individual person come alive. What is the angel and the trumpet? Like, what is that to you? Yeah, this is a very Western, white, Christian card.
Oh, you forgot the P word.
Patriarchal.
Yeah. It is heavy. It is riddled with Christian, patriarchal, homogenous imagery. I would do when
even all the blonde hair.
Right? Your card, at least some of the characters on my card have dark colored hair. But I looked at yours, I was like, wow, they really went for like all the same. All the same. I like that my Secret of the Witch's Garden tarot deck, which sometimes stays really close to the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, took a different turn in reimagining this card and making it a much more just a completely different image of a group of beings heeding the call, a group of beings looking up, waking up, and making the choice to embrace the next phase of their journey, embracing their liberation and being in charge of their liberation.
Yeah, there's more diversity in that card across genders, ages, and
I really, really like that Secrets of the Witch's Garden deck. that for that reason specifically a lot. Even just the ages of the people, and the color of the skin, the different genders and different roles, the different people who are considered you know um in charge of things or running things in that deck are not like the Western patriarchal Christian standard. And it's it is what it is, listeners. What we That's why we do this, is that the Raider White Smith deck is an incredibly historically rich, symbolically heavy deck. You just know what it is when you look at it and know what it is when you use it. You can still use this deck and have your different point of view and a different like even the word judgment. I said this before we hit record. I was like, I don't even like the word judgment, because that tells me, or that means something is judging me. And the universe doesn't judge me. Source doesn't judge me. But that card,
that's a very Christian concept. And
it means there's a higher power that is passing judgment on us, which I don't believe or vibe with.
Yeah. It's off the top of my head, this is probably my least favorite Major Arcana card.
Because of the imagery. Where it falls in the hero's journey and what it stands for, waking up. Like, you read that sentence, and that is exactly what this card is. You use everything you experienced, everything you know, fill it up with everything that you've learned, and then you move forward to the next step. That's an amazing step in our soul's journey, in our hero's journey. You just look at this card and it completely makes me think of other things because of the imagery. It puts me in a completely different headspace. Like that like I'm not in charge of my own next step, that I need to pass judgment, or I need to be judged, or I need to be called to move into this next phase of my journey. But yeah, I hope when you write the Substack, put that sentence in there. That is such a good summation of 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and what this card means. And now we have all these other images from these other decks. Think about that skeleton popping out of his. I keep saying his, but I don't know how to tell a male or a female skeleton. But that skeleton coming out of that coffin with his arms wide, his legs wide, he's got his head tilted back a little bit, like, I'm singing and I am here. Like, think of that imagery of just like arriving. That skeleton has arrived.
Yeah. And we also talked before we hit record.
Me. That image tickles me so much. I can't get it out of my head now, of that skeleton just popping out.
And we talked before we hit record about using our tarot decks, but pulling our kind of favorite representation from each deck. And I mean, not that I know which one I'm going to pick, but to me, the Rider-Waite Smith card is just like, I could just throw it in the garbage. Like, it does nothing for me.
I'll tell you this, listeners, like, hopefully we'll remember this, that at least we should do the Major Arcana of like our, like, from all the cards that we have, and we make the one that makes the most sense to us. And it'd be a fun thing to look at, like, how many of the different decks we actually have. Like, would it be mostly your Zodiac deck? Or would mine be mostly my Witch's Garden deck? Or would we be surprise ourselves and see, like, we would be using something completely different? But that would be a fun exercise. I think that'd be really fun.
Or we can make our own.
Yes.
So that would be a really fun creative sacral chakra project.
Oh,
but I am ready.
Speaking of sacral chakra, let's do the Witch Oracle deck.
I'm ready.
Yes, I can't wait to take pictures of these cards and share this deck with you listeners. It is absolutely magical. I was looking for an adjective at the beginning of this episode, and the word I want to use for this deck is magical. 3 cards today, A, B, or C. Okay. Card A is Alchemist of Pain. Pain is a sacred ally. Suffering is a devourer of the psyche. We cannot control pain. It happens. But we do have some influence over how much we suffer. When we hold onto the injustice of pain, it can turn into suffering. And so it behooves us to release the pain through the healing power of creativity. When we sing our sorrows, dance our turmoil, or otherwise alchemize our hurt into art, we offer the pain back to the earth while also blessing it with our offering of beauty.
Wow. Okay.
This is a sacred alchemy that comes only after grief. A witch knows she must grieve first, giving her heart the space it needs to bleed out all the messages that would diminish her. Ignore the voices that suggest you should be over it by now, or tell you grief looks one way but not another, or suggest that you somehow deserve this pain. The medicine you need to heal is actually inside the wound, so let it bleed out. Empty the wound of pain, empty your heart of tears. Only when you are willing to sit with your agony and companion your sorrow will you sense the medicine rising. It may come slowly, but over time you'll sense an ache to create something from this void. A witch rises when she answers the call to alchemize her pain into a creative offering. This is your time to grieve, witch, and heal. Know this, the rise will come.
That is really reminding me of the little mini hero's journey in the 5, 6, and 7 of Cups that we talked about last week, and the kintsugi, using the gold to put the pieces of broken pottery back together. Wow.
That card. Okay, that was card A. Card B is 5, the Selkie. Legend tells of the Selkie, a shape-shifting woman / seal, often seen off the coast of northern Scotland, who can shed her skin by moonlight and dance upon the shores. Fishermen were known to catch the seal-made skin in order to keep her pinned to the land, captured as bride, preventing her to return to her true skin and soul home. To reclaim your soul skin, in the current legend you're living, you must let go of the good girl pelt you were raised to wear. This means getting comfortable with letting people have their own ideas about who you are so that you can develop the freedom to be what is most natural to you. Toss off all that no longer fits you and dive deep into the places where your soul feels most at home. Let go of old demands you put yourself under to be the good girl, the good friend, the good daughter, the good wife, the good mother. Shed the pelt of expectation, demand, and approval, including your own. The witch you are becoming will cost you relationships, spaces, comfort, security, and convenience. Choose her over everything.
Wow. What a powerful message. And it's kind of like the discernment card from the Medicine Woman Tarot saying some situations that once satisfied you will no longer be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make new decisions based on your new priorities. Boom.
Yeah, that like both these that like that's the vibe in both of these is we can't stay where we are. And then the final card is card 24, the Dancer. Now is the time to celebrate. If you have a particular achievement or success, you are invited to take the time to enjoy it rather than hurrying on towards the next goal. Let yourself indulge this joy you have created for yourself. If you pull this card when there is no specific celebratory event, the dancer is here to remind you that in any given moment you can dance for sovereignty or hustle for approval. The dance is birthed from knowing your deservedness and embodying your inherent worth. The hustle is birthed from the too much, not enough syndrome, which insists we conform, we fit in, earn, prove, or produce in order to be worthy, valued, or loved. Shed the hustle. It never produced anything for you except stress and pressure. Look at the trees. They don't earn the sunshine. Look to the flowers. They don't hustle to deserve rain and soil. A witch recognizes the hum in her veins, the rhythm of heart and breath affirming the dance lives inside her. She doesn't need to earn the right to celebrate, nor to show and share her brilliance. She simply lets the pulse of creation beat inside of her and is willing to share it in times of celebration and in struggle. As a wise poet once said, dance when you're broken open, dance when you're perfectly free.
Those are amazing.
Aww. I love this deck. It is magical. I can't wait to share it, listeners. It's beautiful.
Well, thank you, universe. Thank you, Christina. And next week, like I said, we will be back to talk about Pluto. And until then, we love you, listeners. Thank you for tuning in. Talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. The Radical Podcast is created and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music. Stay in touch with us at linktr.ee/theradicalpodnc.